I thought I was helping a stranger in the park. Now her face haunts me every time I look in the mirror. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post something like this on Reddit, but here I am sitting in my dimly lit apartment at 3 a.m., typing this out because I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking about what happened. It's been 3 weeks and I still can't make sense of it. I need to get this out even if no one believes me. Even if it sounds insane. Because it is insane. And it's true. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are my least favorite day of the week. Nothing good ever happens on a Tuesday. I was walking home from work, cutting through the park like I always do. It was getting dark, but I wasn't worried. I've walked that path 100 times. I know every twist and turn, every bench, every tree. I had my earbuds in listening to a podcast about unsolved mysteries. Ironic, I know, when I saw her. She was sitting on a bench under a flickering street lamp. At first, I thought she was just another jogger taking a break. She had on a hoodie, the hood pulled up, and she was leaning forward, elbows on her knees like she was catching her breath. But as I got closer, I noticed something off. Her hands were trembling. Not just a little shake, but full-on trembling like she was freezing cold or terrified. And then I saw her face. It was sharp. Not sharp like pretty, but sharp like her features were too defined, too angular, like they'd been carved out of stone. Her cheekbones were high and severe, her jawline almost geometric. Her eyes were wide, too wide, and they locked onto mine as I passed. I'll never forget those eyes. They were dark, almost black, but they glinted in the lamplight like they were reflecting something I couldn't see. I looked away quickly, pretending I hadn't noticed her. I told myself to keep walking, to mind my own business. But then I heard her voice. It was soft, barely above a whisper, but it cut through the noise of my podcast like a knife. "You see me, don't you?" I froze. My heart started pounding and I told myself not to turn around. Don't engage. Just keep walking. But my body didn't listen. I turned and she was standing now, her hood still up, her face shadowed except for those glinting eyes. I'm sorry. I stammered, pulling out one earbud. "You see me," she said again, and this time her voice was clearer, sharper. "Most people don't. They look right through me. But you see me." I didn't know what to say. My brain was screaming at me to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. She took a step toward me and I noticed something else. Her movements were jerky, unnatural, like she wasn't used to controlling her body. It was subtle, but it was there. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached up and pulled back her hood. Her hair was long and dark, but it didn't look real. It was too shiny, too perfect, like it had been painted on. And her face. Up close, it was even more unsettling. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her features were so sharp they looked like they could cut glass. "I need your help," she said, and her voice cracked like she was on the verge of tears. "Please. You're the only one who can see me. I should have run. I know that now. But in that moment I felt sorry for her. She looked so desperate, so lost. And I've always been a sucker for helping people. It's my fatal flaw. What do you need?" I asked against my better judgment. She reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. She held it out to me, her hand still trembling. I took it, my fingers brushing against hers, and her skin was ice cold. I unfolded the paper and saw an address scrawled in messy handwriting. "Go there," she said. "Tonight. Please. It's important." I looked up at her, about to ask why, but she was gone. Just gone. 1 second she was there and the next the bench was empty. I spun around looking for her, but the park was deserted. My heart was racing and I felt like I was going to throw up. I told myself it was just a prank, some weirdo messing with me. But deep down I knew it wasn't. Something about her. She wasn't human. I don't know how I knew, but I did. I stood there for what felt like forever, clutching the piece of paper before I finally forced myself to move. I walked home in a daze, my mind racing. I kept telling myself to forget about it, to throw the paper away and pretend it never happened. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop thinking about her face, her voice, the way she'd looked at me like I was her only hope. By the time I got home, I'd made up my mind. I was going to the address. I don't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was something else, something I can't explain. I changed into something warmer, grabbed my keys and headed out. The address was on the other side of town, in a neighborhood I'd never been to before. It was one of those areas that's not quite bad but not exactly good either. The kind of place where you keep your doors locked and your eyes on the road. I found the house easily enough. It was a small, run-down bungalow with a sagging roof and an overgrown yard. The lights were off and it looked like no one had lived there in years. I parked across the street and sat there for a while trying to work up the courage to go in. What was I even doing here? This was insane. I was about to leave when I saw something move in one of the windows. A flicker of light like a candle being lit. My heart jumped into my throat, but I forced myself to get out of the car and walk up to the house. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. I pushed it open slowly, calling out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" No answer. The house was dark and smelled like dust and mildew. I stepped inside, my phone flashlight illuminating the cramped living room. The furniture was old and covered in sheets, and the walls were lined with faded wallpaper that was peeling at the edges. I moved through the house, my footsteps echoing on the creaky floorboards, until I found myself in a small bedroom at the back. And that's when I saw it. In the corner of the room there was a mirror. An old, ornate mirror with a tarnished silver frame. It was leaning against the wall, and it looked out of place in the otherwise empty room. I walked over to it, my reflection growing clearer as I approached. But something was wrong. My reflection. It wasn't me. I mean, it looked like me, but it was off. The eyes were too wide, the smile too sharp. And then it moved. I stumbled back, dropping my phone, and the room plunged into darkness. I could hear my own breathing, loud and panicked, and then I heard something else. A voice, soft and familiar. "Thank you," it said. "You've done well." I spun around, but there was no one there. I grabbed my phone and bolted out of the house, not stopping until I was back in my car. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. When I got home, I locked the door and sat on the couch trying to calm down. I told myself it was just my imagination, that I was tired and stressed and seeing things. But then I looked in the mirror in my hallway and I saw it again, that sharp, unnatural smile. And I realized, it wasn't my reflection. It was hers. I don't know what she is. I don't know what she wanted. But I do know this, she's still here. Every time I look in a mirror I see her. Sometimes she's just watching me. Sometimes she smiles. And sometimes she whispers. "You see me." And I do. I see her. And I don't know how to make her go away.